year is 1989. Everyone in almost the whole world knows who specific 4 turtles are. Named after Renaissance artists, displaying amazing ninja techniques and being these big ass turtles saving New York City from the Foot Clan, it would have been hard not to know them, and of course for their love for pizza. That's right, I'm speaking about the 80s sensation that was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Hero Turtles if you live in Europe. Thanks to their huge success in the mid and late 80s, as well as the huge popularity that arcades and home consoles had thanks to the NES, around the same era, it was a no-brainer that video games from this franchise would be a major hit. After all, the Turtles even had their own cereal back then. So finally, the Turtles came to arcade with this amazing 4-player game where you would team up with 3 other friends, each one taking the role of one of the Turtles in the quest to save April and Splinter from the evil Shredder, making one of the most memorable games of the beat-em-up genre even to this day. In addition to that, a game was also released for the NES, but it was quite a bit different to the surprise of many. This game was not multiplayer and it skipped a little bit of the full-packed action in exchange of difficult platforming and nerve-wracking sections that would require full ninja skills and focus of anyone trying to beat the game. TMNT for the NES was a major success that was released in May of 1989, selling over 3 million copies and almost saving the Nintendo sales in Europe thanks to a bundle that included this game with your console. Well, now that you know some of the origins about this game, it is time to fast forward a few years and speak about those that have dared to challenge this game and beat it as fast as possible. In collaboration with Rod, this is Mr. Dino023 and this is the TMNT NES any % world record progression. For those of you that are not very familiar with the game, let me explain you some of the basics. TMNT is split into 6 different areas, all based in New York and depicted with a little bit of imagination from the creators. The Fifth Avenue or Greenwich Village, the Hudson River, Wall Street, the JFK International Airport, Shredder Space in South Bronx, and inside the Technodrome. You can swap between the 4 turtles at every time, and also, you could potentially get a special weapon drop after a certain amount of enemies being killed, with the chance of also not getting a drop at all. So the idea is that you take the 4 turtles into the journey of getting past through all of these areas, saving April and Splinter along the way, and finally defeating Shredder to return Splinter to its human form and concluding the turtles' adventures for all times. Or not? Well, as mentioned before, this is a speedrun progression video, and as you might already know if you're familiar with speedrunning, the grind is almost never over unless the player decides to quit playing, so let's talk about the first known world record of this game. Spider Waffle got the first known time as a world record for this game back in January 2006. Unfortunately, for the first few runs of Spider Waffle, there is no video footage that could be found. He went from a 20-minute run to the first sub 20 in April of the same year. And right after that is where the first ever recorded run exists with a time of 1926 from the April 25th of 2006. This run was very solid for the time, with no major groundbreaking strats but good platforming, health management and execution, which paved the way to have a sub 20 minutes run finally recorded on tape. This would also showcase what route could be used to try to get to Shredder as fast as possible, expecting that you would get Cave 1. What is that Cave 1 I just mentioned, you said? Okay, let me explain. In Area 5 there are 3 potential caves where you could find the Technodrome. These caves are known as Cave 1, 2 and 3, and the location for which the Technodrome would appear is almost random. More experienced players would know how to manipulate the spawn to be on Cave 1, which is the faster cave, with a certain success rate. Since the cave spawn is defined from the very beginning of the run during the title screen, depending on the frame where you press the start button to begin playing the game. That start press is what would define the location for the Technodrome spawn, a little bit disheartening because you have to trust your gut and your audio cue skills a little bit over 15 minutes to discover if your run could still have world record potential or is completely dead. This issue in regards to the cave spawn has potentially discouraged many players from attempting to run this game, but it didn't discourage neither Feasel or Reaperofvvar, whom after many years of Spider's world records, they decided to challenge it and claim some world records of their own. There is also very little information about their first runs, but somewhere between 2006 world record and 2013, Feasel had a 1925, which would have been world record by 1 second, and Reaper got a 1919. It was until May 2013 that the next recorded world record was achieved by Feasel, getting a total time of 1912. At this point, people would probably started to realize how possible Sub 18 could be, and male players started to jump into the grind of this game. Feasel kept grinding and broke his own record, getting a 1904, and then Reaper claimed that spot back by exactly 1 second, getting a 1903 also in May 2013. This record stood for some months, with a grind for trying to get the sub 19, when suddenly another runner entered the stage, a runner that would be willing to start pushing this game to the new limits. Whitman Price got a time of 1901 by executing a strat that, while it was known, was never used in a world record before this one, the first ceiling glitch inside the Technodrome. Reaperofvvar's previous world record was better executed, and up to this point he was almost 20 seconds ahead of Whitman's run, which showcases how much time this trick could save. The race for the sub 19 continued at this point. Whitman and Reaper started to implement this glitch into their runs, until finally on August of 2013, Reaper got a new milestone and the first sub 19 run was finally achieved. As can be seen, 2013 was a very exciting year for TMNT 1 speedruns, with a lot of top players competing to get the world record and trying to keep pushing the game to lower standards. Even though Reaper got the first sub 18, the grind was not over since his previous 1904 was still better. It was known that at least another 15 seconds could be shaved just by playing better and executing this trick properly. At this point in time, Whitman and Reaper kept exchanging world records until Reaper got an 1851, which was the last time that Reaper would be in the top of the leaderboards, paving the way of a season of reign by Whitman. Seconds here and seconds there, between gameplay, better Technodrome fights and Mecha Turtle fights led to lower the time all the way down to 1836. And while the time could have kept improving, it was reaching a point where new stuff should be tried to keep having substantial improvements. Since the mechanics of the first ceiling glitch were greatly known, other similar clips were also known but were more risky and could have potentially just finished your runs if executed incorrectly. This didn't stop Whitman to keep trying to use it, and finally on September 2013 the second ceiling glitch was used to reach a time of 1821. This was another groundbreaking strat, since this trick is harder to execute than the first one, leaving the chances of a potential soft lock and run killer to be higher, as well as really late into the run. Whitman kept improving, but this run was there to stay for quite a while. This is when a second hiatus on world record changes happened, and this world record lasted for almost 2 years, leaving to think that only top-notch execution after this would be needed to get a better time. In 2015, the world record was lowered by 5 more seconds and it kept belonging to Whitman. Also, 2015 was going to be the year where the game was going to see some more activity once again, especially because a major route change was implemented and the first sub 18 minutes was finally achieved. The new route was very tricky and risky, and just like previous tricks, it could kill your run at the slightest execution error. Remember how we mentioned there are certain weapons dropped by enemies? Well, there is a specific weapon that is not dropped by enemies but rather set at specific spots in the game. These weapons were the Kai, or more commonly known as the Scrolls. This is the best weapon in the whole game, and the way to do more damage in the fastest way possible, but it came at a high cost, not only because how difficult it could be to maneuver in the room to get them, but also because you have to be very aware of any potential weapon drops after getting Scrolls, so that you don't change them by mistake, as well as to be aware of the use of them. Since you only get 20 of them per run, the weapon swap strat comes in very handy at this point. Just as a quick explanation, the way the weapon swap glitch works is that the game takes the damage value of whatever weapon you have active at the time of a hit detection, meaning that you can swing the regular turtle weapon, rapidly activate the scrolls, and the game will do the scroll damage with the regular turtle weapon, saving scrolls that way at the same time as doing as much damage as possible. Scrolls also allowed for many other things to be done faster, such as a 4-hit Technotron kill, a 4-hit Shredder kill, and a fast laser soldier hallway. At this point, Whitman was the only one capable for lowering the speed run even more for quite some time, going from 1753 in the late 2015 all the way down to 1728 in 2017. The run was starting to reach a peak point by now. Several new strats were being implemented which saved seconds here and there, such as the Beetle rope skip, more clips into the ceiling, better weapon drop and health management, and little by little these strats on top of better execution started to lead the runners to think that maybe a sub 17 would eventually be possible, which was unthinkable on the early days of speedrunning this game, but who would be the one to achieve that or to even dare to beat and dethrone Whitman from the top of this game? Well, here comes Skunky. After 4 years of total domination in the leaderboards by Whitman Prize, a new contender comes to claim the title, and the first time that Skunky held a world record was in October of 2017, lowering the previous time by 4 seconds. At this point, the route was pretty much the same that Whitman had used for his previous world record, but just better execution. These two runners exchanged the world record a couple more times. Skunky reached a 17:18, then Whitman a 17:17, which was the first time the nudie pause was used for the faster kill in the Mauser, but it would also be the last time that we would see Whitman being the world record holder. Not so long after that, just about a month later, Skunky would get a 17:14. So, was this going to be the start of Skunky's era? Well, not if someone known as Red had a word about it. Red-headed Peckerwood, or Red for short, was an amazing runner that started climbing in the ranks pretty fast, had a very good knowledge of the mechanics of the game and even came up with innovative strats such as the famous Red Clip, which little by little started saving even more seconds here and there from the overall run. Red submitted his first run with a time of 17:47 on December 25th of 2017. While this run was still 30 seconds behind the world record at that time, it was nothing but an impressive run and the showing of a very potential world record holder in the making. Just 5 months later, Red submits his first world record. It seems he was ready to watch a George Lopez marathon, but decided to give a try to some runs right before the marathon, and man, what a good timing to decide to do so with a little free time. At this point, the race was not to be the world record holder, but to be the first one to have a sub 17-minute run. The milestone was just around the corner, and with all current known strats at the point, this was definitely an achievable goal. Many runs between these two had the potential to achieve it, but many ground cave spawns kept blocking the dream. Skunky got a 17:05 and a 17:03, then Red got a 17:02. The amount of precision and luck that was needed at this point was simply insane. Just take a look at the new rope skip that had to be used on top of all the other strats that we had already mentioned. It was a very exciting moment to watch this game, seeing these two toe-to-toe competing to get the new desired milestone. Until July 2018, this happened.
Fuck yeah! Ugh. Let's go.
In most very optimized speedruns, there comes a point in time where top runners are so equally skilled that world records come to a difference of mere milliseconds to decide the winner. Such was the case when an apparent world record tie happened. On August 2018, Red also got a 16:57 of its own, A truly impressive feat, which today still stands as an uncontested second place and will probably stay there for quite some time. This required for a little bit of rule changing for a more accurate resolution on when type should end. It had to be an equal clear visual cue, and the deciding factor was going to be when Shredder's last health bar was depleted, which happens a little bit after the last hit is landed. After this, both Skunky's and Red's runs were retimed by frame count, with Skunky being the winner by just frames or 0.033 milliseconds. Just to give you an idea, that is even less than a frame rule in Super Mario Bros. 1, which is the current difference between the first and second place in that game. Both runners knew at this point that these times could be beaten, as if you even compare the two runs, both runners changed leads in different sections of the run, clearly showing which areas both could improve. Red stopped grinding the game a little after that, and Skunky kept going after a short break, and in December of 2018, just a few hours before the new year, once again the world record was broken. It was a 16:55, and while this run is nothing but impressive, a new wall was in Skunky's mind: reach the first 1650. Countless attempts kept happening with minor breaks for a day or two, until about a month later, on January 29 of 2019, a truly remarkable run happened and the dream was finally achieved. The time was 16:48, the first ever soft 1650, and currently this is where the world record stands. At this point, there are very few ways that this world record could be improved, and it mostly falls on perfect execution as well as perfect luck in regards of weapon drops. Only time will tell if anyone would like to grind and keep pushing the game down even by just one more second, or if TMNT will go into a new hiatus until maybe new blood or new groundbreaking strats are discovered.